A Bad Boss Workplace Bully Toxic Workplace Guide. Chapter 1. Fight the bad boss bully or leave. Bad boss/boss hole 1. Stay sane, in control, keep your self-respect no matter what is happening around you. Many bosses abuse their power, that's a fact, but many aren't inherently bad, it's just they don't see eye to eye with you on the basics of life. They're conservative and focused on the bottom line. You're a liberal just doing a job and don't particularly like the business leaders of the world. In these cases, you either grin and bear it, get a transfer to another department, or quit and get a job elsewhere. If the boss isn't really a scoundrel, just an eccentric, the best way is probably accept him or her for he or she is and play along during work. Be patronizing in a subtle way. Try to reach a mutual level of respect and leave it at that. The truth is that in surveys of people in general, most have a complaint about their boss. It's inherent in the nature of the boss-worker relationship. Bosses are easy targets for criticism. I'm not suggesting that bosses are just misunderstood, but they are often unjustly the brunt of a lot of anger. Some bosses are bad, but many are just people doing a job. They have to give orders and play the hard ass here and there. This is what they do. If the guy is not a bastard, give him a break. Having said that, there are many bosses who don't know how to treat people with respect. A boss that hollers, screams, calls everybody names, asks for perks unrelated to the job like making coffee, chews you out in front of others, tries to humiliate you, sexually harasses you, etc. is crossing the line. Don't drop to his level. Be a model employee, but document all of his bad behavior and get witnesses to corroborate them. Keep every bit of paperwork and emails he sends you. It may come in handy for a later trial. A bad boss is a bad human being. We can make some allowance for a stressed out boss in a high pressure job, but you can usually sense the bad boss's true character by sensing his inner vibe. Is he mean-spirited? Does he do things just to piss people off, or is it a function of the job? One thing is certain. Most people have rated a bad boss as the worst thing that could possibly happen on the job. Studies of people in bad boss working situations have revealed incredible stress, effects on health, and even suicide in some cases. If you've got a bad boss and you have not been proactive enough about your life to have enough options such that you could quit that job for your own sanity if you had to and not worry about being homeless, then it's your fault. Of course, there are legal issues. You could place a charge against him through your union, a human rights commission, or even charge him civilly or criminally in some cases, but you need documented evidence. The paperwork is tedious, these trials take time, and they emotionally drain you. If you're in control of your life, you simply move on. Bad bosses don't even have to be bad to you. They could be people who are so insecure, neurotic, and indecisive that they screw the operations of the company up. The implicit nature of workplace politics often results in a lot of people getting promoted to be bosses when they're really not good boss material. Seniority is big. Simply being around the longest or the big boss feels indebted to certain employees for one reason or another. The only feasible way to promote people is via merit, and a lot of this includes the ability to work with people civilly. The number one determinant of success in business is your ability to deal with people. If somebody can't do this, they should not be given a management or supervisory position. It's that simple. When dealing with a bad boss, determine if he's like this with everyone or if he's just singling you out. Is he a general all-around control freak, or does he feel threatened by you as an individual? You have a few choices regardless of whether he's targeting just you or is a bad boss with everybody. You can quit to save yourself the hassle of it all, or ask to see him alone in the office. Then once you're there, simply calmly tell him he can't abuse people like that there are laws in place for that, and if he doesn't respect you as a human being on the job, you will be forced to report him to the Department of Labor and the Human Rights Commission. Make friends with others who are united against him and together work to dethrone him. You can take some abuse and let it go, but if he repeatedly crosses the line, you have to take action. Either quit or stay and quietly put the evidence together to file a lawsuit against him. When you're ready to state your position, be confident. When you know in your heart you are right, don't back down. Don't be venomous in your charges, just state them objectively. Hide a tape recorder and even a video camera in the office to tape all of his bad behavior. Bad boss/boss hole 2. There are a number of different kinds of bad bosses who are simply a representative sample of the assholes of society in general. Some common traits and stereotypes are as follows. A confrontational nature, likes to threaten people. According to a survey of workers, the characteristics they most dislike about bosses are: acts vain, controlling and belittles workers in an attempt to hide his inadequacies as a boss. Alcoholic/drug addict. These people are happy sometimes but they say things to embarrass you, then when they get mad, they don't hold back. Analyzes people, going beyond the job to say they have a mental illness. Angry/stressed. Many people are very angry and take this anger out by dumping on their workers who feel they have to take it, but I wouldn't. I'd tell him straight up he's a miserable, angry coot who had better treat people with respect if he doesn't want trouble from the Human Rights Commission. Angry, stressed out and miserable. Arrogant bully, tries to show how superior he is to others. Bad hygiene. Blames others for everything. Bureaucrat, somebody trivial who doesn't understand the spirit of his workers is much more important than his trivial rules. Condescending. Constantly lies. Tells people what they want to get rid of them, but it's often a lie. Control/distrust/Nazi. I used to work for one guy who never failed to check up on everybody a minimum of twice a day, usually 3 to 4 times. If you're a good worker, the boss should leave you alone, never come around unless it's for a real reason. Does mean things on purpose. Doesn't clearly explain what he wants, then hollers at people for not doing it right. El Cheapo, wants to suck every minute of work out of employees. Complains if he sees you throw paper away or turn the AC on if it's below 95 degrees. Embarrasses people publicly. Free ride, delegates everything but accepts praise for everything too. Usually into his image, how he appears to others, at the expense of work. He's never wrong. Image, tries to make himself look good at the expense of doing a good job for its own sake. Tries to hang around with the big shots to gain their favor. Inconsistent. One day he praises employee X, the next day he puts him down. Insecure, compensated for by being overly controlling to feel in control. Insensitive, callous. Is distant and aloof. Is too soft. Doesn't tell his workers what he really wants because he doesn't want to hurt their feelings or is afraid of human contact in general. Is isolated in his office. Know-it-all. Leadership by terror. Makes excessive demands, piles on the work. Makes empty promises. Many insecure bosses try to overcompensate by being bastards and bitches so no one can get close enough to sense their anxiety. Photocopy this article and leave it anonymously on his desk, front and center. Micromanages everything. Can't leave people to do their work on their own. Never a kind word. No respect for others. No sense of humor. One-dimensional frame of mind. Openly critical of others. Overly ambitious at the expense of workers. Paranoid, thinks everybody is talking about him, scheming to depose him behind his back. Perfectionist and controlling. Plays mind games. Plays favorites. Treats some people well but snubs the rest. Punishes people for minor mistakes. Reprimands people in front of others. Rude, condescending. Schizophrenic, tries to be a buddy today. Tomorrow, he will act like a bureaucratic Nazi. Steals the credit for work others have done. Takes the credit for other people's work. Tries to be too personal. Lets his baggage out to bother others with it. Uses intimidation to get his way. Wimp. Often a woman who doesn't feel worthy of her position or an introverted man who'd rather work alone on a specific project than deal with people. These bosses hide out in their office, have no interaction with the workers and let things run themselves. Workaholic, bona fide workaholic who is obsessed with work and production. Bad boss/boss hole 3. Don't be sensitive out in the workplace. People say mean, callous things all the time, but to them, it's business. It's not personal. They expect you to do as you're told while you're on the job. They are function-oriented. That's it. Don't overthink people or their motives. Life moves too fast. Focus on doing a good job regardless of how you're terated. People eventually notice. If a boss is smart, he or she will promote a good worker. There are truly evil people out there. Most of the time people aren't evil. They're just self-centered. They expect you to do as you're told. They don't understand that you have emotions and might feel hurt. Do your job. That's it. If someone is truly evil, complain if you can. Get corroborating evidence from other workers who are treated like crap too from this guy. If you can't complain to anyone because the evil guy is the boss, your last chance to keep your job is to tell him he's insensitive. Talk to him about it as though it's a defect in who he is. He should treat you better. If he doesn't lighten up, quit. Your life is never as small as you think it is. Start looking for another job while you're working for this bum. It's not worth the hassle to work for a bum. Despite what everybody says about how tight the economy is, if you're a good worker you'll find another job. Do what you feel in your heart to be right. If others put you down, it's their problem, not yours. A lot of people are naturally angry. The best you can ever do is to be as calm as you can. Be friendly and unfazed when someone is being mean. If someone is hollering at you and you smile, the anger becomes foolish unless you make them so angry that they hit you. Bad boss/boss hole 4. If you work for a boss who doesn't like you, you'll never be promoted. Some people try to get their boss to like them, but why bother? A bad, incompetent boss will never help you move ahead. Bureaucrats and micromanagers are by the book. They're trivial assholes. They don't see you as a possible great employee. They see you as how much of a conformist you are versus the possibility that you could get them into trouble by breaking a rule. A lot of people turn into assholes when they assume positions of authority. A boss is just a person. Treat him or her with basic respect. If they don't like it, too bad for them. The hell with them. You don't have to take abuse. Call them on it. It will probably make them stop and think that they're being jerks. Bosses use people. They lie about promoting you in the future, make empty promises, etc., all to get you to do the work. A boss might hate you for some reason and want you fired. Decide whether to stay and hold your ground or leave. The best way to deal with a bad boss is to stay calm. I once worked for a bad boss who treated everyone like crap. He hollered at people. They quietly listened, then he left and everything went back to normal. It was like a routine part of the job, the boss hollering. If a boss is genuinely bad, unethical, and breaking the law, get evidence. Document all events, get coworkers to back you up, then report him to the proper authorities. The best way to deal with bad bosses is to quietly give them enough rope to hang themselves. Bad bosses keep alienating people and screwing up until their business either screws up or they're discovered to be incompetent by upper management and axed. Human relations is not as lax as it was 30 years ago. If a boss doesn't treat his workers with respect, you can bring civil charges against him and get him in other kinds of trouble. The key to dealing with a bad boss is to show him you're not gonna play this game and be sucked into his efforts to bring you into his emotional aura and let him manipulate you through it. There's a big chasm between respect and unacceptable behavior. Everybody knows what's fair and what's rude. If he crosses the line with you, either tell him straight up or ignore him until he acts righteously. Never trust your boss. If he plays you and acts like a friend and pulls rank and acts like an impersonal bureaucrat, screw him. Next time he comes around acting friendly, be distant and professional with him. If you feel you should continue to play along and be his phony friend, then it's your fault for enabling him and sticking around. Get the guts to leave or give him the cold treatment until he smartens up. Don't stoop to his level. Just stay professionally impersonal with him and do your own job competently. Do what you can to quietly sabotage him. When he screws up big time, be there to do what you can to push him over the edge. Your purpose is to either reform him, very tough to do, get rid of him or quit. Even if you need the job, a job is a job is a job. I've seen so many people destroy themselves to keep some crappy job without even trying to go out and look for another one while they still held on to the crappy job for security's sake. So it's really your own fault if you've got a crappy boss and simply take it without looking for another job in your spare time. Whenever you deal directly with a bad boss, bring a coworker with you or make sure someone is around to corroborate what takes place as your witness so he can't lie about it. If a boss wants you to do something illegal, by law, you're supposed to refuse to do it. Whether you whistleblow/report it, is up to you, but at the least, refuse to do it and tell him it's illegal. Legally, you can't be fired for refusing to do an illegal act. You could go to the cops and offer to go undercover for them in the case of something bad like cooking the books, dumping toxic wastes, price gouging, etc. Don't assume you can tame a boss because you can't. You can demand that he respect you, which he might do grudgingly to protect himself, but he will probably hate you all the way. It's your choice to either stay and take the tension or leave to find a better place to work. If you bypass your boss about something, it may come back to haunt you since he's the guy with direct power over you. Always try to follow the chain of command and go through your boss unless he's a jerk. I feel that you as the worker should set up your own invisible boundary as to how you will deal with your boss, professional and courteous but not personally friendly, because many bosses are self-centered. They will use this fake friendship then pull rank when they need to. Most bosses care about themselves before they care about you. Many are so self-centered they can't see it from your point of view. Do your work and document it as your own. Most bosses care about their own promotion, not yours, which is why you have to keep a record of everything you do if you plan to go in and ask for a raise or promotion. As a boss, do the right thing. If an employee who's a friend is a jerk, be objective about it. Give him a chance, then fire him if you have to. Bad boss websites/toxic boss websites. Try hashtag 650.13 or HF5548 at the library. eboswatch.com, reviews of bosses, no cost for basic service, fee-based boss background checks. badbosologi.com. bigbadboss.com. boss.com. bullyonline.org. ehow.com, bad boss. findlegaladvice.org/forum/law-i-ethics/bad-hi-for-answer-i-5-399-i-3251995.htm. mycareerquizzes.com/bad-boss-test. myreferences.com/wrongful_termination/bad_boss.asp. reallybadboss.com. mytoxicboss.com. wikihow.com/deal-with-a-bad-boss. workingamerica.org/badboss/index.cfm. Chapter 2. Workplace Bully. Bullying at work/workplace bully. Quebec, Canada is the first place in North America to pass a law giving employees the right to report workplace bullying and have it heard before a panel of the Office of Workplace Standards. They say workplace bullying is stressful, makes some people physically sick, and has even caused suicide in some cases. The crux of the law is the atmosphere of the workplace. Most little incidents are not serious by themselves, but a bunch of little indiscretions over time constitutes a bullying atmosphere. People fired unjustly or who quit can be reinstated, but most judgments award monetary compensation to help the complainant get situated in a new job elsewhere. Bullying by itself is not yet illegal unless it moves into assault or threats. Bullying can be legally defined as harassment in some cases where there is a hostile workplace where someone or a group threatens, harasses, belittles, verbally abuses or criticizes others in a condescending way. These bullies are either very insecure people who try to overcompensate for their fear of inadequacy or just plain mean, aggressive, bad people who do it because they've gotten away with it so far, so even though they know it's wrong, they still intimidate people because it works for them. Some bosses bully for the pleasure and power of it. It's an ego thing. You're not feeling so hot, so you belittle someone to make yourself feel better. It's not right, but bosses do it all the time because they know they hold power over people's job security. It could be a reaction to stress. If a boss is stressed, he will often dump some of that angst on his underlings. You could ignore minor bullying, confront the bully on his bad and possibly illegal behavior, or quietly gather evidence, then report him. The easiest way to get evidence is to get a small audio recorder or use your cell phone recorder to tape the guy in audio and or video when they're acting up. If several people are being bullied, get together as a group, make up a written statement and either go to his boss or file a grievance with your union/job board as bullying or abuse. A civil lawsuit usually comes after the grievance is processed and concluded in your favor. Keep a written diary of all bullying incidents, including the date, time, and any witnesses. In any situation, tell the bully that their behavior is unacceptable and could be illegal, then either leave or ignore the bully. Don't fight back or argue. This can come back to haunt you if the bully says you were the instigator. Avoid being alone with the bully as much as possible. You need evidence. Your best evidence is witnesses and audio/video tapes you make. The Workplace Bullying and Trauma Institute has identified the following behaviors as the most common bullying tactics. Falsely accusing someone of mistakes they didn't actually make, blaming. Stare, glare, non-verbally intimidating. Discounting or dismissing the person's thoughts or feelings, like saying that's silly or stupid. The silent treatment with tension in the room. Chewing people out in front of others. Disregarding rules of conduct. Disregarding satisfactory work even though there is evidence of it. Harsh and constant criticism. Start or continue destructive rumors. Badmouth someone to others to try to get them to turn against that person. Male bullies are loud and verbal. Female bullies try to ice the person out with coldness and the silent treatment. In some areas, workplace bullying is making its way onto government job board statutes and even onto the criminal code, but in most places the attitude is still put up with it or quit. In many cases, it's better to quit than to suffer the indignity of an evil person who thinks he has some power over you. The best way to counteract a bully is with quiet-toned, polite, witty one-liners that make them look like idiots for doing whatever it is they're doing. Just make the one statement, then shut up and either walk away or ignore them. There is a certain line in the affairs of people that, when crossed, violates human dignity and gives you the right not to take it regardless of who it is, even a boss. If you take it, you're implicitly giving this person some kind of control over you. If it was me, I'd call him an asshole for being a disrespectful lowlife and either quit right there, or if I needed the job, I'd then back off and see what his next move was. Quite often if you stand up to a bully once and show him you're not gonna take his shit, most wither away and won't bother you anymore. They might bother other people, but they'll know you fight back and won't take it. The issue of bullying will slowly permeate into union rules, corporate rules, and government job rules, but as long as there are small, privately owned companies, there will be bosses who think they are supreme dictators. Workplace bullying websites. Workplacebullying.org, bullyinginstitute.org, the Workplace Bullying and Trauma Institute. bullyonline.org/workbully. aclu.org, American Civil Liberties Union. Antibullying.net. bullybeware.com. bullying.org. Chapter 3. A Toxic Workplace Guide. Toxic Workplace 1. Look at conflict at work as a necessary release of tension or safety valve that, if left unchecked, will explode. Simply ask coworkers how the day is going. Tension should be dealt with to clear the air. If left unchecked, it could blow up into bad fights. Listen, Then try to get to the root of the problem. If left to simmer, it causes headaches, anxiety, and disrupts everything else in your life. You may turn to addiction, any form from shopping to drugs, to numb the emptiness it leaves inside you. It may get so bad, you might try professional help, but I believe that people should solve their own problems except in extreme cases. Get it out, solve it immediately through talk and understanding. Invariably, the root cause to virtually every fight is resistance breeds resistance. The egocentric part in each of us tells us not to let anyone get the better of us. And somehow this translates to the ones we love, maybe because we're stuck so close in living proximity that we get on each other's nerves from time to time. Ultimately, we're all individuals stuck in our own point of views made up of everything that ever happened to us, which formed our attitudes and perceptions about the world. We're all a tangled web of emotions. Some parts fit with others, some don't. The parts that fit may lead to a snug connection, the parts that don't could short-circuit and self-destruct. My point in all this is that we are all individual entities floating around like blobs of flesh, each encumbered in his own space, and the reality is that no two blobs are exactly alike. It's just one of the facts of life. The best we can do is acknowledge in our minds that we are different, we come from different places, so we must accept such things in others without going off half-cocked. Every single day is a new day. Just as it's a battle to keep your spark of inspiration alive, it's a battle to keep stable relationships with the people around you. I just be myself and try to be nice all the time. It's the easiest way to live. When you're nice, karma comes back to you. No gimmicks, just try to be nice to people. Do favors for others to earn their favor. If you are living a good life, you feel relaxed, you have nothing to prove to anyone, nor do you feel a need to fight or upstage anyone should a situation develop. To this end, before you ever get into hostile situations, do some of the following things in order to feel good about your life and be calm when things happen. Know yourself. Discover what your true identity is away from cultural conditioning. Try to live a relaxed lifestyle. Identify stress in your life and minimize it. Analyze all the negative thoughts and feelings you have. Try to understand them, then get rid of them. Be a positive, upbeat person. Don't live under any delusions. Be real. Be on good terms with the people around you. Try to culture allies and friends. Try to love life and a few people around you. Try to live a healthy lifestyle. Be inspired about something in life. Whenever you're in a hostile conflict, try the following steps. Slow down for a second. Keep your mouth shut while you analyze the situation. Identity: exactly what emotions you're feeling. What is angering you? Try to listen to the other side and empathize. Put yourself in their position. When you speak, try to be non-confrontational. Make it such that you're just trying to solve the problem. Try to cooperate, to make it a win-win situation. Be assertive if you feel you must. Back off if the whole thing is not really a big deal to you. Try to build bridges rather than destroy them. Toxic workplace 2. It all comes down to relationships with people. Without trust, the workplace is dead. Up until recently, problems at work was a mostly taboo topic relegated to minor sections in the human resources chapter of the typical business administration textbook, but the truth is that the personality conflicts at work are often the most powerful, emotionally insidious issues that could break or make companies depending on how they are dealt with. There are two major causes of work problems. 1. When an individual gets too much power over others, the workers see him as a god in this closed system and he abuses his power over them by going beyond professional job duties to use them as his personal servants/punching bags. 2. The old kicking the dog syndrome, the frustration-aggression hypothesis, the dumping complex. Everybody has some baggage, which is frustration, angst, and anger inside. It could be caused by lack of money, your wife won't have sex with you, your kids are self-centered rascals, you're getting old and fat, your boss just chewed you out, etc. This creates tension in you. A mature person doesn't betray his tension to others, but immature people can't deal with it, so they take it out on the nearest thing that probably won't fight back. For anyone in a managerial/supervisory position, it's his or her workers. They probably won't fight back because they're afraid of getting fired, so bosses generally start small with the abuse of power. Then when nobody complains, they escalate until they're out of control. Be careful of groupthink. In your closed system at work, everybody is thinking the one-dimensional company, but you have your own identity. But the problem is that groupthink will try to make you feel like a deviant if you don't conform, so you have to be strong even when they try to make you feel like there's something wrong with you because you're not playing their little game and allowing yourself to be exploited like everybody else there. Sometimes it's better to leave toxic companies than hang around for the measly paycheck, especially if it starts costing you your sanity. The term currently being bandied around in human resource management is that of the dysfunctional workplace, where something is poison and has to be identified to either be cured or extracted. The easiest way to identify it is to sense the vibes. If you feel tension, you know it's there. It can often be traced to one person, either a callous boss or an overbearing employee who wants to control everyone else by trying to embarrass them in front of others. It could be one faction against the other, the girls versus the guys, the in-crowd versus the others, the warehouse guys versus the retail clerks, management versus workers, etc. In a good working environment, management is not necessarily adversarial with the workers. They both work together as a team, side by side, each respecting the other's boundaries. When all the rules and regulations are taken into account, they don't matter half as much as basic respect and being personable enough to be likable. But a lot of people are either too stupid to realize this or too egotistical, feeling they need to dominate others, usually because they're insecure, purposely be bastards or bitches for the thrill they get out of it, to make themselves look good, or the fear of getting too close to others because they think if people see them as they really are, they will be perceived as weak, loser-type people. A dysfunctional workplace is not a trivial matter where the personality conflicts people have are just a minor distraction from the main business of production. Many workplaces and companies have self-destruct because of the ego of one stupid, insensitive boss or an immature worker who wanted to create tension for everyone and was protected by his union despite his horrible personality, because on paper, he didn't create any specific violations, he was just an overall negative personality. All in all, the reason for the tension doesn't matter much. You have to find the source and either change it or eliminate it. If two guys hate each other, don't put them next to each other and hope they will make up, they won't. Put one guy on delivery and one guy in production. Barring that, fire the worst one. If the boss is an asshole, in a big company, you can go around him to complain. In a small company, you generally can't complain without expecting some repercussions. One woman was so traumatized about her abusive boss at her small company that she started getting stress disorders and was scared to quit because of the insecurity of being unemployed. One day, she had no choice. She couldn't take it anymore. She quit and found a better job, both money-wise and people-wise. The point is that you don't have to get tunnel vision working in your little office thinking that's your entire life and letting the boss know through unconscious signals that you're too scared to go anywhere else so that he feels some control over you and abuses it. If worse comes to worse, leave an abusive situation and have faith that you're good enough to work somewhere where they will respect you. The old saying, one bad apple spoils the barrel, is true. One bad boss or employee can put the entire workplace in a state of walking on eggshells. Find that person, get rid of him or her. The way to avoid problem employees is to hire the right people to start out with. Have a good first interview and possibly a second one. Have a probation period where you can kick them out if you don't like them, no questions asked. Put that in your work contract, a statement saying that you can terminate them within the probation period if you don't feel they're good for the company. Tell them problem employees will not be tolerated. Give each new employee a good orientation. Spell out exactly what's expected of them, all the rules and regulations on paper, possibly on video and verbally. You could even test them on it, as some companies do. Have good managers and bosses who can weed out problem employees right off. Counsel them, give them a chance, but if they can't improve, can them. You warned them upfront and gave them a chance to improve. They asked for it. Find what your workers are best at and place them there. Use their best talents. Educate them if necessary to show them you're interested in helping them move up and better themselves. Treat someone as the person they could be, and they should respond by living up to their potential. Challenge your employees to be all they can be. Focus on the negative only enough to tell them to change, then move on to their strengths and tell them to go for it. Employees are your gauge for the company. If they're happy, the company is good. If they're not, there's something wrong. There is an objective standard of decency and sanity in the world. If you can measure up to it when tough times are happening to you, you win the game of life. If you simply conform and eat whatever crap they feed you with, you lose. I know the paycheck is important, but either get the guts to stand up against the fat-ass losers or quit and get a job elsewhere. Respect everyone. Keep a certain professional distance from everyone. A healthy self-respect is good. A big ego to try to look good and get respect from others can destroy empires and companies. When you see big egos, either set them straight on the game or show them the door and the point of your shoe. Have a grievance/suggestion box. If somebody feels that somebody else is taking credit for their work like their boss, speak up, put a note in the grievance box. Good leaders don't need fads like corporate culture training and development. They intuitively know what's going on. They don't live in denial by trying to make everything look great when it's really falling apart. They face the truth and deal with it. Most people will lie to you to serve their interests in one way or another, so take everything everyone tells you with a grain of salt. Make your own decisions by watching and intuitively sensing what's really going on. If you're a woman or a minority, you can generally find an organization to help you in your fight against the company. If you're a white guy, you have to stay strong, build a good case, then go to a work attorney to address your complaint. To err is human, to be an asshole is intentional. You can usually separate an honest mistake from a chronic jerk. If you have a chronic jerk on staff, either have a good heart-to-heart with him telling him he doesn't fool anyone with his arrogant act, or get rid of him for poor personal deportment not in keeping with the company's integrity. As an employee, know what your objective rights as a human being worthy of respect are. If a boss crosses this line, start documenting the events. Get witnesses if other people are present, then after it happens several times, go to his boss, or if he doesn't have a boss, go to him with your documented diary, tell him he's violating your rights, there are laws against it, either he stop it immediately or you will file a complaint with the Department of Labor or go see an employment attorney about it. That should shut him up. If it doesn't, contact them, file a report and a civil lawsuit for damages and back pay after you quit due to his unethical behavior. Quietly document the incidents, get witnesses, bring a secret tape recorder or video camera in to tape the incidents, then report them when you get enough, 3 or more definite abuses. If the top man is bad, a corporate culture can become easily polluted because all the clones and yes men will imitate him and play his game. The way to determine whether somebody is friend or foe is if they side with objective human relations between people over company culture or company policy. If somebody is more loyal to the company rules than their relationship with you, they can't be trusted. They've been brainwashed. If you take away people's individual identities, you've just destroyed the soul of the company, because people won't feel free enough to contribute individual ideas nor try hard at something that doesn't inspire them. If you're an autocratic leader, get ready to be double-teamed when you're down and out and need a favor. Have an open door policy for employees for both work and personal problems to either come see you or someone in the human resource department if they want. If your boss is stupid but essentially harmless, it might be worth it to stay and ignore him as much as you can. Egotistical people are generally easy to topple if you can unite, because everybody hates them, their peers, their bosses, their workers. Management tries to rein in nonconformists by giving them petty rules to follow. Sexual harassment is intolerable and grounds for a civil lawsuit. Sometimes an anonymous letter to a problem employee or boss about his problem is better than a straight confrontation. It might solve the problem. If not, then you will have to confront the person. It all comes down to how well the employees do their jobs. If they're happy and productive, all is good. If they're scared, gossipy, looking over their shoulders, you got a loyalty problem caused by a toxic workplace. If you or anyone publicly humiliates an asshole manager, he won't rest until he gets his revenge. If you promote growth, happiness, and a free exchange of ideas, you win. If you promote fear and conformity, you create a toxic workplace. Books about a toxic workplace are at hashtag 650.13, hashtag 658.3045, hashtag 658.38 or HF5549 at the library. McClureAssociates.com. Whistleblower.org. Problems between people at work. Everything between people comes down to how much you like someone and they you based on how similar they are to you, how closely they think like you, how agreeable and cooperative they are with you, and how much they respect you even if they hate you. We like people like us who agree with us and don't argue. All this talk about business relations is the superficial top layer. Human relations are primal. It's a feeling in your gut you get about someone very quickly after meeting them based on intuition. I've learned to reserve my judgments about people. Even if I don't initially like someone I meet, I keep my mouth shut, my unconscious gestures neutral, and act courteously. By showing respect to people I initially didn't like, they've often come back and done me favors and talked to me about profound and interesting things whereupon I liked them more. My point is that the boss-worker relationship exists at a professional superficial level, but the person-to-person relationship is what really counts. Does your boss treat you with the common respect afforded to any human being? If not, he's crossed the line trying to abuse this artificial power he has over you. Either quit or document the exact details of him abusing you verbally, giving you too much work, etc. Try to get witnesses if there are other people around, and either report him to your personnel office, your union, or the EEOC. Employee performance is generally directly related to how well the worker gets along with the boss. If they're buddies, engage in some small talk but keep a professional distance while working with the worker, respecting the boss's position and giving good effort on the job. If the boss has a stilted, uncomfortable relationship with the worker, for whatever reason, he will criticize the employee will get discouraged and the work will suffer. There's a backlash effect where many employees get back at bosses they hate by stealing things, vandalizing the workplace, and doing poor work on purpose. It's all in the relationship between the players. If it's good, the workers will do good work and not try to sabotage the workplace. If it's bad, the worker will be naturally antagonistic. So the bottom line behind all boss-employee problems is the personal relationship between the boss and the worker. Try to be friends with your workers, or at least respect them professionally. When you correct or discipline an employee, do it without emotion, as though they did something the wrong way and you're simply showing them the right way to do it without scorn, like a benevolent teacher. Of course, some people are impossible. They have problems within themselves that cause them to be miserable, and they take it out on everyone around them. In that case, regardless of whether you're employee or boss, a poison person around you is detrimental to your all-around quality of life. Terminate the relationship. Either quit the job, report the person, or fire them if you're the boss. Life's too short to get stressed out over jerks. If you as a boss are having a problem with a worker, you have to talk to them privately about it. Talk about the specific problem and try to be unemotional about it. Tell them you just want a good worker. What can he or she do to help you achieve that end? Tell them exactly what their problem is, offer suggestions, ask them if they're aware of it, and tell them to think about it on their own and analyze the situation for themselves. Ask them how things are going in life and on the job. Listen to them while they talk, then tell them to try harder, go for it, and you have faith in them. Monitor their performance and keep having private talks until it improves or you get tired and fire them. A problem could be anything: somebody absent, always late, somebody who gossips, somebody lazy, someone with bad breath or body odor, somebody too religious, or somebody who talks too much. Deal with the specific problem behavior and not anything else. Don't be wishy-washy with problem employees. Let them know you have a specific problem with a certain aspect of their work performance and tell them you want them to improve it so it's perfectly clear on both sides and there are no mixed signals in the air. You don't approve of that behavior and expect changes. After the second time, write it out on paper, get the employee to sign it and put him or her on probation for 6 months or so. If they don't improve, you have grounds to take further disciplinary action like a last chance formal warning. If they screw that up, you're justified in firing them. Don't ever overreact. It makes you look like a fool and could get you in trouble both by abusing your power and in the eyes of the other workers who will see you as an ass. Just be cool, say that we got a problem and we gotta take care of it. Don't lecture. Discuss the problem with the employee or just state it very simply and clearly. Don't be condescending. Be an encourager. Act as though you're teaching the employee something, not scolding him. Give him a few chances. If he screws up, he knows the deal. It's totally up to him. Don't leave him hanging. If he's improving, tell him so. If he's still dragging, tell him in no uncertain terms to get with the program or ship out. You're trying to help this person reach his potential with the company. Make that perfectly clear to him that you're on his side and want him to succeed. Help him correct his undesirable behavior. wlb.monster.com/article/introverts, understand the inner life of workplace introverts. Sore spots between employers and employees. There are many potential sore spots between employees and employers that could conceivably end up in either a complaint to a federal labor agency, a civil lawsuit filed by either the employee or employer, or instead of that, an arbitration hearing. Some of the issues that typically come up between employees and employers are as follows. Employee fraud on the resume. Often the employee is just terminated unless he wants to object to it. Employer fraud, misrepresenting the job, pay and perks. Employee violates the terms of the employee handbook. The right for an employee to see his or her personnel file. Unjust termination, not related to performance. Termination because of discrimination. Termination because an employee was a whistleblower. He or she pointed out an illegal or improper action done by the employers to the authorities. Termination because of abusive discharge. The employer decides he doesn't like the employee for one reason or another and terminates him. Firing an employee for refusing to do something illegal or trying to prevent him or her from doing something required by law. The employer makes false accusations against an employee without evidence. The employer says lies about the employee. This is called defamation. Retaliation against an employee for anything. One example is if you give a bad reference about a previous employee when he or she was really a good worker. Sexual harassment. Harassment in general, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Shortchanged on the paycheck. Questionable fees taken out of the employee's paycheck. Forced to work more than 40 hours a week. Forced to work at ridiculous times. Pay below minimum wage. Not honoring overtime laws. Problems with leave, vacation time off, leave during pregnancy, etc. Health insurance coverage. Excessive absenteeism. Coming to work late. Unsafe working conditions. Injury on the job. Worker compensation.